Time for a special episode. I have reached 1000 subscribers on YouTube, and I would like to thank everybody for subscribing and watching my videos. And for that reason, I have decided to make a special episode. On this episode, I'm not going to be fixing anything, I'm going to be making something. And we're going to be making whiskey. I will tell you a little story how the barley ends up into the bottle. This story begins when the farmer has delivered his crops to the distillery. Distillery has steeped the barley in water in order to start the germination process in the grain. And how it continues, let's see. First we need to dry out the barley. We start this by laying it on the floor, on the malting floors. Then we have to turn it so it doesn't grow into a grass bed. This drying is to stop the germination process. We also do the turning with the machine, a turner. This process also has a different meaning, that it's also aerating the barley on the floor. And this is how the grain looks when it starts to germinate. The main reason for this is to start the barley, the grain, to produce as much as sugar as it can. Once the barley had dried out enough on the floor, it's shoveled up and taken to the kiln. Kiln is basically an oven to dry out the rest and also smoke the barley, so it gets this smoke and rich flavor to the whiskey. In the kiln, it's a very dark place. You have to lay out the barley evenly to the floor so that it dries out evenly. Once it has been spread all over the floor, you have to aerate it so that smoke and heat can freely pass the barley grains. Then we light up the fire in the kiln. As a fuel, traditionally it's used peat from a peat bog. It is a traditional fuel for Scottish people. We use first dry peat to get the fire going, then we throw wet peat on top. This will make this thick smoke, and this thick smoke gives the smoky taste to your whiskey. And this is how it looks in the kiln once the smoke is passing through the barley. Then we have the millet. The milling process is done to crush the barley grains into flours and grists. Once that is done, it's put into mashing, so it's making a mash. Basically a big bowl of porridge that is then done. In this process, the warm water and the flours and the grist of the barley is mixed together. This is basically the basis of the whiskey, and this is then fermented into sort of like beer. And those that you can see, those turners there, their function is to keep the barley from not laying down on the floor and spreading it evenly so that it's cooked evenly. There you can see the turners in action. They're going round and round and stirring the mash. Then we're gonna prepare the fermentation vessels. Wooden vessels that are cleaned with steam. Then we have the mash that we did it and yeast. And after the yeast activation has been done, you end up sort of like a beer. Then going to the distilling process. First it's gonna go to the wash still, and after that to the spirit still. Wash still is the one on the left, and the spirit stills are one on the right. Let's take a look inside of the wash still. Once it's done, it's transferred into the spirit still. Once that is processing, we're gonna check the alcohol level of the liquid coming out. In this case, we keep the hard cut, so that's basically around 60 to 50 ABV. Here you can see the end result coming out of the spirit still. Once the spirit has been done, it's transferred into oak casks for maturation. These casks are always laid so that the cork is facing upwards, so that inspections of the liquid inside can be easily done when they're in the storage. And you shake those barrels around or cask around to get the cork up. Then they're being transferred into storage. All manual work. This is a dunnage warehouse, this one. A modern warehouse is called a rack warehouse, where the casks are lifted with the forklift on the racks. There was a nice system that they had how to determine that the barrel rolls the cork upside once it's rolled onto the racks. You divide the head of the cask to a clock face, for example 10 to 12, and once it rolls to the rack, it's always coming cork up. It was a very interesting system that they had, and very good invention. After that, when they're in the warehouse, they're left here for 3 years plus 1 day. Then you can call it whiskey, but usually they're left alone much longer periods. Only thing that they do to them is check the liquid level and alcohol level of the content. If it drops below 40 ABV, you cannot call it whiskey anymore. But nothing else is done to them once they're going to sleep. After sleeping is over, the casks are brought to a bottling hall. The casks are emptied. First they use a crude filter here to block out the charcoal. These barrels are burnt inside to give more flavor to the whiskey, and after that it goes through several filters to get other particles out. Then you have to decide what kind of whiskey you want to make. It's called the blending process. In this process, different kind of cask types or barrel types are used to blend whiskey that you like, the flavor. It's all done by smelling and tasting. Once the winning combination has been found, you have to figure out the measurements or the ratios of each cask, how much from each cask you have to pour in to get the correct measurement to fill a full bottle. And when this has been approved and ready, let's go to bottle it. The bottles are filled. Let's put a label on it and a cork, and our product is ready to be enjoyed. This was a story on Grain the Bottle. This is a story that I like to share to you. It's something that you don't normally see everywhere or anywhere, that's for its matter. And I had the privilege to be part of this process, and I think the journey was great. Hopefully you enjoyed it also, and hopefully I will have some more videos soon to you guys to enjoy. And thanks again for subscribing and watching my videos. Have a pleasant day.